What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. And today we're going to be talking about it's going to be multi-layered, and I don't really know where we're going with it, but I think it's something worth discussing. But it has to do with forgiveness, it has to do with brand loyalty, it has to do with customer loyalty, and how all those things kind of wrap into one big project, especially when you have a price related to it that it sometimes could be considered by a few or by many to be astronomical. It also will be the last time that I discuss this Leo, the Star Saber, Leo Victory Saber thing. It has taken up a lot of my life in terms of content and having to kind of think about it and talk about it. And it's because it's worth the conversation and it begs a lot of questions and asks a lot of questions, I think, of the customer base. But nonetheless, I plan on putting a pin in that conversation this go around. Before we get into that, though, we have to get into some housekeeping. And for one, the Bumblebee review, he comes with 4 of those energy things, not 5. Look, numbers have never been my strong suit, and I get that, but I thought I had the counting part down, like the elementary, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that bit, but I guess I don't. I'm working on me. What can I say? Other than that, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there were comments about the price point and whether or not the price point is appropriate. I guess that's subjective at the end of the day. For me, it doesn't seem appropriate, and it doesn't seem that much fancier to me. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a solid piece, but it doesn't seem that much fancier to me than, say, Star Wars 3 3/4 with the digital face and sculpt in terms of both paint and sculpt. I think I said sculpt too many times there. You know, there's a lot of technical stuff that goes into that too, and I think that around $14 is maybe a bit much, but I don't know, man. It just seems like that doesn't seem on par to me with a really well done Marvel Legend or a really well done Black Series. I don't know what to tell you. And in spite of that, still think it's a good figure. Nothing really to talk about with the Constructicon, solid little set. Dummies just posted today. And then, of course, there was Sit Down Saturday last week, where we talked about just X-Transbots and what they're up to. And we're going to continue that conversation a bit today, but I do think it's interesting. So let's get started. Let's just jump into it because that will kind of tie into this. It'll be a good segue. It's almost like I've done this before. I want to examine a couple of companies, take a look at some of their perhaps missteps in recent times, and then how that has kind of course corrected or been forgiven or been forgotten, perhaps is even a more appropriate claim to some. And why that is, and why we do it, and what is it with us? Is it Stockholm Syndrome? What is it? So let's look at X-Transbots. It wasn't too long ago that I remember people clearly rallying in the streets, or the internet version of it, which means a message board because they don't come outside, with pitchforks and torches and banners and signs that were calling for X-Transbots' head because of price increases for some of their figures, along with the instability, perhaps, of quality of build regarding their Minosaur, as well as the build missteps, mishaps, and issues regarding their cup, as well as a Quintesson that seemed kind of astronomically priced to most. I remember this. This was very recent. This is this year. And what do? They go quiet for a little bit, maybe a month, and then they hit you with a ton of reveals, most of which are kind of niche or fan servicey. A lot of them certainly kind of fan favorites in a way. And it's like we forgive the previous missteps, myself included, and we forget them and act as if they weren't there and just kind of focus on our excitement at the moment. So that happened. Let's look at another company, though. Let's look at Fans Toys. I think it's clear that there's combiner issues regarding them. I remember a time when people were like, man, where's these limbs? Where are these limbs? I don't know where these limbs. I better put out these limbs. I haven't seen anything about these limbs. What's going on? We're 1 step away from a Minosaur. We're 2 steps away from a Superion. What's going on, Fans Toys? What's going on? And what does Fans Toys do? Hit us with a ton of reveals, pre-orders, re-releases, and nobody's talking about the combiners anymore. Now that seems to me a bit different than the X-Transbot situation. The X-Transbot situation seems to me like a little bit of a like, here guys, we're gonna try this for you because we know we screwed up here. And the Fans Toys seems more like, what are you looking at over here? Look at all this fun stuff over here. Don't pay attention to that over there. We got this fun stuff over here. Come over here. There's a party over here. So it's 2 different types of forgiveness. Maybe one is more forgiveness in regards to X-Transbots, and the other one is just people forgetting in regards to Fans Toys. But both being played out through the idea of just showing you new product. Now, let's take that same thing and apply it to Takara. The Starscream people are at least split on 50-50 at minimum. But I had a comment in one of my videos recently that was like, yeah, the knees are weak and the ankles suck and the head looks a little big, but other than that, he's perfect. And that comment has kind of stuck with me because I'm like, that's pretty far from perfect, right? Like, to me, it's like, man, if she just clipped her nails a little bit, just tuck it, then she'd be perfect. Like, that means you're like right there teetering on the edge of perfect. Like, this is, you're talking about stability issues, aesthetic issues. So what is it there that causes the the forgiveness. Like, because he's not saying, that person's not saying, like, yeah, but, you know, I still kind of like it and it still looks good on a shelf. He's saying, aside from that, it's perfect. That, to me, ties more into brand loyalty, right? Where, at least from the outside in, it seemingly is, this individual is going to accept what he is given in regards to that company. Loyal to the brand. And I get it, I'm loyal to brands too. But with that, I think a lot of people forget that there's two sides to that coin, because there's also customer loyalty. And if you don't have the customer loyalty, the brand loyalty will eventually run out. You can't retain it forever. But let's move on to another one. And that's this recent Flame Toys debacle, which is kind of really where I want to get to. So you release two products, both of which are $400. So the ask there is a total of $800 to a customer base. And with that, you have a reputation built upon years now of releases of solid, strong, built, painted, sculpted beauties, of which I would say are close to perfection. And then you put out this product and they're supposed to combine and it doesn't stand, it's not stable, it's not built to hold the weight isn't distributed well. It becomes a problem of functionality, a problem that we've been seeing more and more and more recently that I'm trying not to be alarmed about, but it is somewhat concerning. We've seen it with Takara Starscream, with this Victory Saber, there was the movie Studio Starscream recently. Like, a lot of these figures recently have had problems just doing your basic kind of functional things. Stand there. But we haven't seen their kind of strategy in terms of changing the tide. Like, we've seen it with Fans Toys, we've seen it with X-Transbots, and we've seen it with Takara in a weird way, but in a way. But what we haven't seen is how Flames Toys intends to do that. And let me ask you this, because this is the question I'm asking myself these days. How much is too much to forgive? Let me give you a case in point. I buy a Marvel Legend at $20, and it's got a really tight ankle joint. Like, you just can't move it. Like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna put this in some hot water or something and heat it up or take a blow dryer to it and try to get this thing loose, so to speak. At $20, you know, you win some, you lose some. Easy fix with a blow dryer, let's kind of keep it moving. Now let's elevate that. I buy an SH Figuarts for like $60, $70. That's what they used to be anyway. They're going up and up these days. And one of the eyes is wonky. I have the worst luck with it in the world. My Patreon folks let you know I'm always like, well, how do I always get the one where one eye is looking at a squirrel and the other one at a groundhog? And at $60, you're like, man, what a bummer. That sucks. They better get it right next time, right? And you put it on your shelf and nobody can really see because nobody's really looking at the eyes on a shelf of SH Figuarts from a mile away where most people are, right? Then you buy a Masterpiece Transformer, right? 100, 150, maybe 200, somewhere in there. And you get lock, build issues, paint issues, but the sculpt is kind of there, right? Or you get a Fans Toys piece that has real hard time with articulation. Or, you know, any given possibility, right? And you get mad. I get mad. Like, because it's a lot of money, right? And you say, like, you voice your complaints and you become vocal about it and you take pictures of the problems and you post them and you try to share them to try to make an impact so that your voice can be heard, right? Far different than the reaction to the $20 Marvel Legend. Far different price point. So we'll elevate it. $250, $300. Let's say we're getting a Hot Toys now. There's very little that I'm willing to accept in regards to kind of QC issues. Luckily, I don't have a ton, or I haven't had a ton. For all my bad luck with Hot Toys, I haven't had a whole ton of bad luck. But I have had some, and it puts a real stink on it too, right? The Ant-Man without the helmet on, like, it became a meme. So the question is, what happens when it's $800? When it's a Victory Saber that can't stand? What happens? How do we forgive that? What does it take to maintain customer loyalty, specifically for people that have had brand loyalty? Because we've seen it work with the $100 to $200 price point. I think that Flames Toys is in a very curious position right now. I think they got a little complacent. I think they got a little comfortable. And now I think they got to reel it back in, concentrate on fan favorite characters, and really knock something out of the park, because this ain't it. And we've seen other companies use tactics in order to get customer loyalty or customer forgiveness. But I don't know how feasible that is at the $800 price point. So it's just something that I wanted to bring up and talk about. I've just noticed how short our memories are. I think a lot of it is because we're just excited for the products. We're just fans at heart. So we get mad, we get upset, but it's like a bumblebee sting. It's like, so to speak. It's, you know, it gets you, you're pissed off for a day, and then the next day you're not even thinking about it anymore. And I think that's how we are for the most part. I think it is a little bit of Stockholm Syndrome. I think we are a little bit too quick to turn a blind eye or too quick to chase the next carrot without holding people accountable for their previous kind of transgressions in regards to our wallets. But when that transgression is an $800 one, done. It's time now to start really making it back up to the customers. And I think a lot of these companies need to kind of give us back a little bit. But that can only happen if we start holding them to some sort of standard and start keeping them accountable. Anyway, I'm not sure if that was interesting at all. It's just something I've been thinking about recently. I think sociologically is fascinating, but I don't know if that stuff always lands. So either way, something for you Saturday. I'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.